Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that, tries to cut through the noise and get to what really matters. And today, wow, we are plunging into something huge, a technology that moved so fast. ChatGPT. Just think about this for a second. It hit 1 million users in just a few days. And then boom, 100 million active users in only a year. We're talking, over 92% of Fortune 500 companies adopting it? That's massive. And that kind of speed, that kind of adoption sends ripples everywhere, doesn't it? And maybe nowhere more profoundly than in post-secondary education. Colleges, universities, they're right in the middle of it. So that's our core topic for this deep dive. The really profound, kind of complex influence of generative AI, especially ChatGPT, on higher ed. Our mission today, we want to really unpack how generative AI blew up so fast, looking specifically through this lens of AI hype. We'll get into what people thought it meant for writing, for teaching, for learning, and then crucially explore why we need actual best practices for bringing it in. This is all grounded in a really interesting recent research article.
Yeah, and maybe just to make sure we're all on the same page, let's quickly define generative AI.
No.
Basically, it's AI that can create new content, text, images, code, you name it. ChatGPT itself, that stands for Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer, is a specific example. It's a type of LLM, a large language model. Think of LLMs as these enormous digital brains, neural networks, trained on just unbelievable amounts of text data. Now, they don't understand like humans do. Not really. They use incredibly complex math, predictive algorithms to spot patterns, like which words usually follow other words. So when you prompt it, it's predicting the most statistically likely next word and the next and the next, building sentences that sound remarkably human. It's less like thinking, more like predicting based on patterns it's seen millions of times, like a superpowered autocomplete almost, but way beyond that.
Okay, so that's the tech, and it just took off like wildfire. But why? What was the fundamental draw? Why did students, instructors, professionals, why did everyone jump on tools like ChatGPT so quickly? What was the hook?
Well, in a word, efficiency. Just sheer, unadulterated efficiency. These things can pump out sentences, paragraphs, whole documents, stylistically pretty good across tons of different genres. And like you said, not just text, images too, professional-looking visuals, video, even writing computer code or translating between coding languages. The main appeal really was the time saving. It just automates so much work that used to take hours, sometimes days. Imaginative academic work, suddenly near instantaneous.
Yeah, that's a huge shift in how work gets done.
Yeah.
Think about traditional writing, right? Mulling over the audience, finding sources, picking points, taking notes, then actually composing. Suddenly the job changes. It becomes prompting the chatbot, looking at what comes back, assessing it, maybe tweaking it, structuring the final thing, but not writing it from scratch. Students become, as the article puts it, managers of automated learning tasks. It's a different role.
It absolutely is. And that shift, it moves the core skill. Less about the initial creation, maybe more about critical evaluation, refinement, knowing how to prompt well, different muscles. Interestingly, OpenAI themselves, back when this first launched, say, late 2022 to mid-2023, they were pretty clear about seeing it used in education. They even suggested specific uses on their site for educators. Things like drafting lesson plans, creating quiz questions, maybe building custom tutoring tools.
Oh, really? So they leaned into the education angle early on.
Yeah, customizing materials for different reading levels, giving grammar feedback, helping with writing or coding skills. Even using it to critique AI-generated text itself. They saw it as a legitimate edtech tool.
And it wasn't just the company, right? I remember hearing about the open education community.
Exactly. During that initial phase, they were actively encouraging people to experiment with AI in courses. They saw it as, a way to help society adapt, find meaningful ways to use this powerful new thing, a real sense of opportunity initially.
Okay, opportunity, but then comes the AI hype. This is where it gets really fascinating. This term, AI hype, it describes that sort of sensationalized way people talk about AI. Hyperbolic descriptions. It's this weird mix, isn't it? Like total awe and excitement on one side and absolute dread and fear on the other. And this mix often fuels a massive consumer reaction, makes people rush to adopt it. It's like a cultural fever, as you said.
Right. And the research article we're looking at really dug into this using something called critical discourse analysis, which basically means they didn't just count words. They looked at how language was used in the media, what assumptions were hidden in the way things were described, how did it shape perception.
Sort of reading between the lines of the news coverage.
Exactly. They focused on 55 articles from two specific newspapers, the Globe and Mail and The Economist. Chosen because they have, pretty strong journalistic standards. They looked at articles specifically talking about ChatGPT and education. The goal was to map out how the mainstream media was framing this whole thing for the public.
And they found some recurring themes in that coverage, right? 4 main ones.
That's right. 4 key themes emerged from the analysis.
Okay, let's break them down. The first one, and apparently the most dominant, was about the overwhelming scope of capabilities. This idea that, wow, there's little it can't do. People were amazed. News stories were full of examples. Writing essays, fiction, designing websites, coding.
It seemed almost magical, limitless. But that amazement quickly tipped into something else. Anxiety. Remember how we talked about efficiency? Well, the flip side was concern. The study found words related to cheating, cheaters appeared 53 times just in the Globe and Mail's education articles.
53 times. Wow. So the immediate reaction in education news was heavily focused on academic misconduct.
Overwhelmingly so. And you have to ask, right, how did that immediate cheating narrative affect how schools responded? Did it push them into a defensive crouch instead of, say, proactive planning?
That makes sense. A reactive stance instead of a thoughtful one. Okay, so that's the capabilities and the cheating fear. What was the second theme?
Theme 2 was the impending job loss. This tapped into a really deep fear.
Ah, the automation anxiety.
Exactly. This sort of real visceral fear that jobs, even knowledge worker jobs people thought were safe, could just be automated away by AI.
And were educators specifically mentioned?
Oh, yes. Teachers, particularly in fields like languages, literature, history, they were singled out in some media reports as being next on the list, highly exposed occupations, so the narrative became AI might replace human teachers. And adding to the fear was this idea that AI operates without enough oversight, without human control.
Okay, so overwhelming power leads to job fears. Then the third theme gets weirder. Anthropomorphism of AI, attributing human traits to it.
Yeah, this one's tricky. The media often describe ChatGPT in human terms, claims like it can lie or it's much, much smarter than ourselves, or that it can improvise, learn, adapt, even write new code, implying human-like cognition.
Right. I remember asking it something simple once, and it confidently told me George Washington invented the internet or something equally absurd. It wasn't lying, it was just wrong. But we tend to say it lied.
Exactly. And that's the danger the article points out. AI doesn't lie in the human sense of intentional deception. It produces output based on patterns, and sometimes those patterns lead to incorrect or nonsensical outputs, what researchers call hallucinations. Garry Kasparov, the chess champion, made a great point about confusing a machine's performance beating humans at chess with its method, how it actually calculates moves, which is totally alien to human thought.
That's a good distinction. Performance versus method.
And Kate Crawford talks about the mythologies we build around AI. We naturally tend to anthropomorphize complex tech to make sense of it, but it's deceptive. It makes us overestimate it or misunderstand its real limits.
And that misunderstanding, that humanizing of the machine, probably fuels the fourth theme, right? The really extreme one. Vulnerability, fear, and existential risk.
Precisely. This theme captured the most extreme fears. Talk about a threat to the survival of human civilization. Ideas that AI could surpass us, replace humanity entirely.
Sounds like science fiction, but it was appearing in serious news outlets.
It was. And these fears got a boost from things happening in the real world, like that open letter from AI experts calling to pause giant AI experiments. Even Sam Altman, OpenAI's CEO, calling for global regulation of super dangerous AI. Now, these are complex issues with genuine concerns.
Yeah.
But the research also hints that strategically, raising the alarm about existential risk might also serve corporate goals. Creating moats, influencing regulation in your favor, gaining a competitive edge. It's complicated.
So putting it all together, these themes aren't separate boxes, they connect.
Exactly. They function intertextually, as the researchers say. The mind-blowing capabilities feed the job loss fears. Humanizing the AI makes the existential threats feel more real.
And it creates this cycle, a kind of panic discourse, as the article calls it, instead of a calm, measured approach.
Yeah, a feedback loop of hype and anxiety.
Okay, so we have this cycle of hype and fear. But what's the real danger of that cycle for education? Does it just slow things down, or does it actively push institutions in the wrong direction, making decisions based on panic, not pedagogy?
I think it's definitely the latter. That panicked discourse, the research argues, it really overshadows a more thoughtful, nuanced way forward. The researchers actually framed ChatGPT not just as a threat, but maybe more as an opportunity for the education system to renew itself, to imagine something better for students.
Renewal. That's a more positive spin, seeing beyond the panic.
Exactly. Leaning into the potential for positive change rather than just reacting to the fear.
And are there, like, guiding principles for that? I know organizations like UNESCO have weighed in.
They have. UNESCO put out reports, I think, in 2021 and 2023. They acknowledge AI's potential for social good, for helping achieve sustainable development goals. Huge potential. But they're also very clear about the ethical risks. They stress the need for really strict requirements to protect students, especially around things like monitoring, assessment, or predicting student behavior. We need guardrails.
So it's not just let AI run wild in the classroom.
Definitely not. And this leads to a crucial point the article makes. Generative AI tools for education. They need to be developed based on the actual needs of students and teachers, not driven by fear, not driven by the hype, not driven by just the novelty of the tech. Pedagogy first, technology second, purposeful design.
That makes sense. Design for education, not just drop tech into education. And the article calls for long-term planning, right?
Yeah.
Like 10 to 20 years out.
Yes, urging higher education to think strategically about integrating AI writing tools across teaching, research, professional practice. And this means actively fostering skills like digital literacy, critical media literacy, civic engagement, alongside ethically sound adoption, preparing students for the world they're actually entering.
And ethics involves, well, who gets to decide, right? The article mentions marginalized communities.
Absolutely critical point. This planning must include voices that are often left out. Indigenous students are specifically mentioned as an example. AI adoption can't just be a reaction to mainstream hype or what big tech companies want. Institutions need to rethink things fundamentally. That means respecting and promoting Indigenous languages, knowledges, perspectives, truly embodying co-design, bringing everyone to the table.
Co-design. So researchers, rights holders, community members, everyone involved in shaping how this tech is used, learning outcomes, assessments, policies.
That's the only way, the article argues, to ensure that the adoption of generative AI is truly inclusive and equitable. It's a fundamental shift from top-down tech implementation.
Okay, so we've covered a lot in this deep dive. It feels like we've seen this paradox play out. On one hand, generative AI is this incredibly efficient tool. It can automate basic academic tasks. But on the other hand, its arrival in education was just swamped by this wave of panic, this sensationalized hype, from amazing potential to cheating and job loss fears almost overnight.
It's true. The AI hype definitely shaped and maybe even distorted how education first grappled with these tools. But the message from the research seems clear. The way forward isn't more panic. It's thoughtful, ethical, inclusive planning and co-creation. Leveraging the good, mitigating the bad, deliberately. It's a marathon, not a sprint fueled by anxiety.
So maybe a final thought to leave everyone with. Given how quickly and deeply generative AI is weaving itself into the fabric of the internet, into everything we do online, how can we as students, as educators, as just citizens, how can we actively participate in shaping the values and the ethics that get baked into these powerful technologies, instead of just reacting after they're already here? Something to really chew on as we all navigate this future.